My name is Lindsay Rodriguez. And if you do like what you're seeing, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, comment, all the good things that you want to do to help, boost my exposure if you'd be so kind. Okay, so today is, we are in January 2021. 2021, son, we made it. So, obviously, since it's the new year, new me, new year, new you, I felt it natural to do a lot of reflection time. And it just so happens that today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, right? So, when I think of him, I think about how he fought for our rights, for our civil rights to be free, And so then I started going on about like freedom and personal freedom and how do you get to personal freedom and what it feels like to have personal freedom, because I went through more time than I care to admit doing things that I didn't want to do because it felt like I had to. And I know I'm not alone. I am not alone in this, because it's the big buzz that you do what you have to do, you get it done, and then it's done, and then you have the rest of the time to do what you want to do. But do you? Do you really? Because the things that you don't want to do really take up a good chunk of your day, right? But you feel like you have to do it, right? And so why do you feel like you have to do it? Out of obligation to the important people in your life, out of responsibility, And I'm not saying to be irresponsible, but maybe shift your priorities. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Right, so a lot of people find themselves in this situation. Take like corporate America. A lot of people have corporate jobs, or they did prior to COVID 2020, right? But then where did they find themselves? Laid off due to lack of work, due to we can't do anything because of COVID-19 and we need to protect everybody's safety, which, yes, is important. But a lot of people did suffer. A lot of people's lives were uprooted, both by being worried about being healthy and being worried about, if they're going to make a stable living. And so it's not like it was an easy adjustment in any sort, any way you spin it, So then I started to think, okay, I didn't feel free back then, prior to COVID. And a lot of people will argue, well, I don't feel free now. Things are closed. I can't go anywhere. I have limit restrictions, all this jazz. But then I started to think, okay, where do you find your freedom? Do you find your freedom out there in the sphere? Or do you find your freedom in here? In here. And therefore, everything that goes around you is not as big, it affects you, but when you have really harmonized what's going on in here and in here, it makes it easier to adjust out there. Makes sense? So if I'm free in my heart, in my spirit, it'll make me free in my mind, because my mind will open and I will find ways that I can get the freedom that I crave, and then it will start to just be in the outside world. At least that was my experience, I wanted to kind of talk about my journey. The new year is a good time for a lot of reflection of the past year. And I won't say the past year was easy for me or a lot of people, but I think in sharing your story and, how you overcame certain trials and tribulations, it might just speak to somebody. And that's all we could do, right? So I am originally from Illinois, suburbs of Chicago. Grew up in Palatine, Illinois by Arlington Heights for all you Midwesterners, Illinois peeps. And then I moved to Joliet by Plainfield, Romeoville, all that jazz. I went to college out there, got my bachelor's in communications, emphasis media studies, and then I minored in Japanese studies because I'm part Japanese and I'm so proud to be Japanese. Shout out to all my Japanese peeps. But I'm also, my dad would kill me if I didn't say this, I'm also part Mexican. And then I think I have some German in me from my maternal grandfather's side. But they're like a bunch of farmers from Iowa, so I spent some summers out there, which is really fun. So a lot of flat land, a lot of corn. It's really cool. But I think from an early age, California living was calling me. I loved my Disney Channel, and I love my cartoons, my Cartoon Network, my Nickelodeon, my Disney Channel, all my faves, right? Oh, I loved gargoyles. If any of you know what gargoyles is, just, it's great, right? 1,000 years ago, superstition and a sword ruled. It's crazy. Okay, anyways, that's just my favorite cartoon ever, and I'm really, I love cartoons. So I think I always internally knew that I wanted to be a voice actor, and I wanted to voice cartoons, and I wanted to be a princess and sing princess songs in the princess movies, maybe an anime, like all these things, right? It was always in me. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to do it because I would always be like, Mom, Dad, I want to do this. And they're like, okay, now be realistic. I get why they said that, because they wanted to protect me. Because generations before me and before them, there was a certain status quo that was built, right? Nobody really challenges the cuff, right? You just go with the flow, you do what you need to do, and then that's it. That's how I was raised. You go to school, you get your grades, you get your degree, and then you find a corporate job. Which, oh, there's an airplane. Do you hear it? Zoom, 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 JJ the jet plane. That's me. Anyways, yeah, you kind of do what you need to do. And there are good lessons in that. Being disciplined, being hardworking is all very valuable. But I don't feel like anyone ever really understood what I kind of yearned for, which was like a creative fulfillment in my work that would bring me just this personal freedom to kind of work when I decided I wanted to work and bring in the money the way I knew how to bring in money. So therefore, like, you don't really rely so much on a job to just bring in your money, right? I guess you can call that an entrepreneurial spirit, right? So I believe that for the longest time, and I believe that when I packed my bags and I moved out to California with my boyfriend. Yes, we did that. We packed our cars and we moved out. It was a year after I graduated college. And it was kind of a big leap. At the time, I was working at a jewelry store. I sold diamonds. So I started out, I was only allowed to sell gemstones, gemstone bracelets, rings, earrings, watches even. And then I got promoted to a certified diamondologist. So I had to take this big course where I knew like the color, the cut, all these jazz about diamonds, and I was able to start selling bridal jewelry. But that was a little too unnecessarily competitive for me. I'm a competitive person, but I like more so the aspect of teamwork. So I just felt like I was working against everybody instead of with everybody. And so I transferred to repair liaison, where I would help the jewelers kind of fix the jewelry, like take down the slips of what was broken on the jewelry, tell the jewelers what needed to be fixed. And I did that. And I transferred over to California when I moved in that position. I did that for X amount of years. And when I finally got to Burbank back in 2016, Burbank, California, which for those of you who don't know is where Walt Disney Studios is where Cartoon Network is where Nickelodeon is where NBC is. It's like about 20 minutes away from Hollywood, Los Angeles type of deal, for those who aren't familiar with California. But it was always in my head, okay, just get there. Just get to the heart of where everything is, of where all these great cartoons were made, and you will do it because you are there and there is no excuse not to do it, right? There's no excuse. that's it. You can't put it off anymore. You can't say, oh, I'm too busy because I'm working at a job, and it'll just fall and it'll just come. And that was my belief, because I feel subconsciously I was always fighting living how others wanted me to live, doing what other people wanted me to do. I wanted to be my own person and be independent and not rely on anybody and just be free in that aspect. I don't owe anybody any answers. I don't need to tell anybody, can I do this? Can I do that? I'd be in charge of my own life. That was always, always so important to me. And I know instinctively, however you say it, that rings true for other people too, in one way, shape, or form, you know? I know people feel like they have to do things that they don't want to do out of obligation, out of guilt, out of loyalty, and all these things. But, you know, if you can find your freedom, I think that would be really cool. And I think you do too. So anyway, back to my story. So I finally made it to Burbank. But I was commuting long distances. First it was 50 miles, then, 30 miles, but in like 3-hour rush hour traffic. And keep in mind, this was before COVID, so LA traffic was terrible. I would have to go to work primetime hours, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., but it's primetime traffic hours, and I wasn't going against traffic, so I got the bunt of it. 3 hours there, I would have to leave 4 or 5 in the morning just to not be worried that I might be late because I leave exactly to get there exactly on time, but there's an accident or something. So I'd leave very early in the morning. I'd get there very late at night. It was 2 to 3 hours of traffic each way, right? And so that was 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours of my day. What? Driving in traffic, sometimes having to go to the bathroom, back problems, crankiness. Just, I didn't want to do it, but I didn't feel like I had another choice. That was bringing in the money. I've always had a job. That was all I've ever known. And, I was still pursuing, ever since I got to California, I think a year I got into California, I started pursuing voiceover, and I started training. And I would train with some bigwigs, right? And they would charge me handsomely for it. But, well-known voice actors, and I value their opinion, and I value the lessons they've taught me, and I value the relationships that we still have today, because it's not like they're like one and done and I don't care about you anymore. They actually care about you. People in the voiceover community are crazy cool like that. They care about your career. They know that it's a lot of grunt work. They know that it takes a lot to do what you're doing, and you will be surrounded, at least this is my experience, so that's all I can speak to, you will be surrounded by a lot of naysayers until you prove them wrong, until they start to see that you're getting results, and they're like, hey, how did you do it? You're an overnight sensation. Oh, there's a lot of grunt work to it, and more so than I think any of you realize, but thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, so back to where I was, a lot of driving, and I'm like, for what? I'm miserable. I just want to voice cartoons. What is going on in this world, right? And so I was like, that's it. I need to at least find another job that's closer to where I'm at in Burbank, and that way I could devote more of my free time to sourcing clients and securing agents and, just voicing things, right? And so I finally found a job that was in Burbank, and it was someone in the industry, right? I became a rental agent, and I rented out audio and video equipment to, AV corporate shows and film crews. So we would rent out broadcast quality cameras, lenses, a little bit of lighting, but not so much into it. microphones, tripods that go with microphones, LED tiles. We got really into LED tiles. So I learned a lot from that company, and that company from the get-go was always very generous to me, and I really appreciate them. Um, it introduced me to kind of like the way the people in the industry thought. It's very quick paced. It's very, you need to know things, right? And I felt very green. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about this equipment, but I thought it would be valuable because if I could learn more about like audio equipment, I would have a nice little setup at home, a broadcast quality home studio for me to record voiceover jobs in, right? So I learned a lot from these people. I went on a lot of cool shows. We also rented projectors, so I even got to work on a couple of Disney Interactive shoots. And I got my name on the little call sheet, so that was kind of like a big moment for me, even though everybody's like, yeah, whatever. But that stuff was kind of a big deal to me, right? And I met a lot of great people. And it was towards like my last years there that I really, because I was always one track mind, stick to your thing, stay in your lane, and you just focus on what you need to focus on. But I think towards the end, I built a lot of nice relationships with these people, and I value them. But, unfortunately, they had to lay me off because of the pandemic. And it really hurt, because I really liked being there, but I kind of sensed it. I've never been fired from anything. I guess laid off is better, but it's never happened to me. I was always a good worker. I was always told I was appreciated. But when it came time, I guess I wasn't essential, and that hurt a little bit, and it's nobody's fault. I don't hold any grudges because I feel like people need to make the best decisions for their company, and I completely 100% respect that, and I wish everybody well, but maybe part of it was because I didn't belong there anymore. And, I couldn't hold on to jobs anymore that didn't really was a part of my calling, but it wasn't there anymore, And so finally, I was about 5 years into my voiceover career, on my 5th year, and 5 is my lucky number. Last year, 2020, in the pandemic, I got laid off, and I went full time into voiceover. And it's been scary, but it's kind of like the best thing that ever happened to me, in a way. I got to voice cartoon characters finally. I got to voice a singing starfish, and I got to voice detective characters and missing kitties, and I got to voice, CIA agents and super and like little princesses in video games. Also like some audiobooks, and I got to voice for Sally Beauty and, some college promos. And just, it's really crazy because I got to be an elf, and I got interviewed on television. I got interviewed on Telemundo for my work with the Elf on the Shelf brand, which that wasn't voiceover. That was more of like an interactive experience. But they got to interview me because I speak Spanish, right? And so that has helped me a lot in my voiceover career too. I got to sing on NBC with the choir that I sing with, which was a lot of fun too. And so this whole experience really started to open my mind to all of the opportunities out there, and kind of see that the only person that could keep you in a place where you don't have freedom is you. I kept myself bound and chained by what I expected of myself and what I believed other people expected of me, and what I thought I should give to other people. And if I give to other people, they'll treat me with the same respect. And that wasn't always the case. I would treat people with the utmost kindness, giving, and I felt taken advantage of a lot of the times. And but then you start to think, right? And you think the only person you could truly count on at the end of the day is yourself. And you control the perspective you have in life by how you see things. So how are you going to see your day, right? Are you going to be happy? Are you going to look at it as a new opportunity? Are you going to be excited about what you can create, what you can build, what you can do, what legacy you can leave behind? Or are you going to go into 2021 thinking that the government controls me and, the world is against me? And, in some aspects, you can't ignore what's going on. But at the same time, you can also realize the personal power that you hold within yourself and how you view your world and how you let other people affect you. And so if there's anything I've learned about freedom, it's about the gift of giving yourself freedom and being kind to yourself. Because once you nurture and fill yourself, you are able to give, you're in a space to give people more than what you could before. When you thought that your first obligation was to other people's happiness and not your own. Because if an unhappy person tries to give happiness to another unhappy person, it's not going to work out. You have to give from experience. You have to give from a place of knowing. And that's not to say you're going to be happy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because we're human. You'll have your off days. But I think from what I've experienced, it took me 5 years to fully pursue what I wanted to pursue. And you know what? I'm an award-nominated voice actress. And that was only after 1 year into going full-time. So had I done this from the get-go, as scary as it may be, the chances I would have to take, just think where I would have been now, So I really hope this does resonate with whoever decided to listen to this, whoever found this video. If it does, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, leave me a comment. I promise to answer and read all of your comments and respond, and we could start a dialogue. But yeah, 2021, go into it right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Again, I'm Lindsay Rodriguez, and toodles.